to President Biden. In fact, he worked in Jill Biden's office in the White House. Michael, I want to start by going back to 2019, 2020. You were on the campaign, and there's an interesting anecdote, once again in the book, and two of your colleagues who have been subpoenaed, Tomasini and also Anthony Bernal, this is what it says about them at that time in 2020. It says that the isolation of COVID changed the power dynamics of Biden's inner circle. Longtime aides, Annie Tomasini, Jill's top aide, Anthony Bernal, moved to Wilmington. For the next several months, they were some of the only people to have consistent access to the nominee, were often the last people the Bidens talked to at night. You were on the campaign. Were these two the ones with the most access? And were there others that would have seen Biden up front before he became president?
They did have the most access. And I would say, and this isn't anything against Annie or Anthony, but they did exercise and have the most power inside of that White House. And I don't think anybody would disagree with me.
Yeah, so that's interesting. The most power in the White House. I want to pull up a map of the White House. You and I have both worked there. We were in separate wings of the White House. And as you can see, and you know it, but I want our viewers to see, the East Wing is on one side of the White House. West Wing, entirely opposite side. That's where you see the yellow. So you see this huge separation. It is highly abnormal for the East Wing to be the ones with the most access to the president. I almost never saw anyone from the East Wing. I'm curious to know from you, because you were in that East Wing with Anthony and others, how many people, if you could name a number for me, had close-up access to President Biden? Because I surmise it was not a lot.
From the East Wing or in general?
In general.
It would probably be about between 6, 7, around there.
6 or 7. That was the number that had the close-up access. And I say this because in some ways I think it's exonerating of much of the Democratic Party. You know, I worked at the RNC, didn't have much access to President Trump. Worked on the campaign, didn't have much access to President Trump at the time. It really was a small cadre in the West Wing. I want to ask you lastly about this, because you did work with the First Lady. And this, again, is from the book. On foreign trips, Bernal and other aides began requesting events just for Jill. Spousal programming, it was called internally. Before state visits from foreign leaders, her team asked for talking points. Some national security officials found it unusual. She frequently asked White House personnel like Rear Admiral John Kirby to attend briefings about state dinners. I never recall First Lady Melania Trump asking for that kind of information. Did you encounter that?
Yeah, we did ask for that kind of information, particularly ahead of, as an example, when we were going to the Olympics. She was the head of the delegation.